All right, Monet Davis. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. We haven't talked to you before, so I kind of want to just go through your whole story.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm from Philadelphia.
What's Philly like? I've never been to Philly. Are the cheesecakes really that good?
I mean, I think they are just because, I grew up just eating them. Where I played, all my sports at right down the street, there were a cheesesteak place. I feel like you can get it from anywhere. You can go to the corner store, get a cheesesteak. So like, I think they're pretty good.
They're right, right. I gotta check out Philly now. It's like I was at a Super Bowl when it was the Eagles playing the New England,
hmm
and the Philadelphia fans were serious. Why are Philly fans so serious?
I don't know. I was at that game too, but like all my friends would like text me and everything, and I would see videos all over social media, and like the city just went crazy. It was the first Super Bowl for the Eagles to win, so like we didn't really. I mean, Philly just went all out, win or lose. I just knew like they were gonna go crazy, and I don't know. I feel like I saw AI talking about it. Like Philly fans, like if you're doing poorly, they're gonna let you know how you're doing. But if you're doing amazing, they're gonna let you know too. So just keeping it real with all the athletes. I think that's probably one of the coolest things. Always
Right,
having the support of the city. But I think it's cool to see people really that supportive of sports.
right, right. Now, are you a Philly fan through and through?
Um, no, not really. I mean, I kind of stopped watching like a lot of sports. I'll catch some here and there. But you always gotta cheer for the hometown team. Like if they're playing in a big game, I'll cheer for them. But I don't really watch, the Phillies that much or the Sixers or the Eagles as much as, a normal sports or athlete will watch.
Right, why not?
I don't know. I feel like since like high school, I kind of just stopped watching sports. I watch a lot of soccer,
Okay, okay.
but I just kind of stopped getting into it.
Right. Have you been seeing what's going on with sports cards?
No, I haven't.
Sports cards are going crazy. Like if you like when you get a chance, look up on like eBay. Like soccer cards are crazy, but like Luka Doncic was going for like $70 last year. Now it's going for like
What?
1,600.
I don't know the last time I ever talked to somebody about sports cards. Like that's crazy.
Sports cards is going crazy. Look at the market. It's ridiculous. Then when you go to like the old school, like Iversons and Shaqs, and then even like Bill Russells and all those go for like 20, 30,000. It was I think a Mike Trout went for 3.8 million like a couple weeks ago.
Maybe I should start buying some sports cards.
You got to. You have to because you know sports. Just
Yeah.
but look into it. Look into it when you get a chance. So I know that's a total tangent, but what was your childhood like?
My childhood was pretty cool. I have an older brother, I have a younger brother, a younger sister,
Okay.
a bunch of cousins. Um, so my childhood was pretty cool. I have a cousin that's like 2 years older than me, and I
Okay.
would be with him all the time. I'd say he's my favorite cousin. I'm always with him. We're always playing basketball together. He was the one that got me started into playing for the baseball team that I played with since I was 7.
Mm,
Um, so I've always just been. I had a lot of older cousins who were into basketball, into different sports. So just being around them, they kind of got me started into sports. Making sure like that I always had the right influences. They would, you know, I was like 5 playing NBA live and playing with Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming. They
yeah.
always kept me busy with sports, and they showed me different outlets like for what women can do. They showed me a lot of WNBA games. Um, but I grew up with pretty calm childhood, nothing too crazy.
Right.
My parents really supported me, put me on the right path, put me in such a great school. I had a coach who's like a second father to me.
Okay.
He always made sure like I did what I was supposed to do. If I started slacking in school on grades, he made sure I picked that up. He would always help me. Like if I needed a tutor or anything, he would help me. So I had some pretty great adults around me, and just a good support system.
That's so important. Now, who was the first one to like introduce you to sports? Like, does somebody take credit for like giving you like a ball in your crib or anything like that?
Um, I don't think so. I remember when I was, super young, I'd always be in my grandparents' house, and my grandfather had, pretty sure he had a a red punch buggy or Volkswagen buggy, and I remember I had a Barbie doll who had the same one. But that's what I remember when I was younger. But I also remember, me and my older brother going out in the front yard just climbing trees.
Yeah.
I think that was like the first time I really started being like super active. My older brother, let me play basketball with him. He's 4 years older than me. So when I was like 6, he let me play in one of the leagues that he was playing in. I got to be on his team. They would let me shoot all the time. That's kind of how, I started getting into sports. My cousin would always try to race me. Even though he was faster than me, I would always play catch with him. So really just being around my cousin and my brother, they kind of really got me started in sports.
Right. When was the first time you beat your older brother one-on-one? Or have you beat him?
I think I was in like 7th grade. I remember it super clearly. I had like basketball workouts outside with a bunch of different girls, and he was there one morning, and my mom was in the car, and we got there super early for some reason, and he was just out there, and we were like, all right, let's play a one-on-one. I think game went to like 15, and it was 1s and 2s, and that's when like I really started to realize like I have a jump shot and that I could shoot really well. And he kept slacking off, so I just kept shooting, and I ended up winning. And he'll say that I didn't beat him, that I'll never beat him, but I know for a fact that I beat him.
You always remember that time where you win. Like mine was when I beat my dad for the first time. It was a game point. I came baseline, I hung in the air, then he floated past me, and I stayed up there and hit it off the glass, and he never played me again.
Yeah, I don't know if I played my brother in a one-on-one again. I know we always play 5s, and I make sure that I'm always, out there with them. I'm pretty sure most of the time my team wins, but it's a rare sighting that, I'll let him beat me. I will never let him beat me anymore.
Right. Now, what kind of game do you have basketball-wise? Are you a slasher, shooter, handler, distributor?
I like to pass the ball a lot. So I'd say like a floor general, but I can also shoot the ball really well. I feel like if I have, a good kind of support around me, that I can make those players better. But, I keep it nice and simple. I don't try to be too flashy. If I know I can get right past my defender, there's no point in playing around, just go right by and, get the mismatch. But yeah, floor general, a shooter. I could really play anywhere. I mean, not a big, but like I could play there if you need me to.
Right. That makes sense. Now, this is a question that ever since the Last Dance came out, me and my friends and everybody's been talking. Who's better, LeBron or Mike?
I'll be honest, I haven't really watched it. I'm planning on binging it pretty soon, just because I have a lot of time. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably say Mike just because, of what he did and everything that I've like seen. But, LeBron's not too far behind. I mean, I'd say he's the GOAT of, this time right now. But, everyone has their own opinions. I try not to put people against each other. I try to, just make sure like you just admire them like right now. But, they're both fantastic players.
Right.
Can't really judge the two of them.
That makes sense. If I would have to say, I saw LeBron and I saw Mike, I would say Mike because I think he's a better competitor. Like Mike really, really was a really deep competitor. And then he totally dominated on the defensive end in a way that I've never seen anyone dominate. LeBron's a better passer. I think he's a better ball handler. Rebounding is kind of comparable. I don't know. It's a good thing, but I'm kind of with you. Like it's, it just makes sense to just, enjoy greatness. So,
but also it's nothing like seeing a person play in person. I feel like what you see on TV is just not the same as seeing them in person. So I didn't get to see Jordan play in person, but I got to see LeBron a few times, and it's just crazy like what they can do. So maybe, it'll still be up for debate for plenty of years, but right now, why not just enjoy both of them?
Right, and nobody will ever agree. But I tell you, LeBron is huge.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You don't realize how big that guy is, and he acts like he's a 6'2" guy. How fluid he is. So that's a big thing. But I wanna get into when I became aware of you, and it was in the Little League World Series, and you pitched a shutout. I want to kind of go through that day. How did you feel that day of the shutout? Like when you woke up, were you feeling like, wow, I'm feeling like a good day? Were you nervous? You say, hey, I ate my Wheaties, I'm ready to go. Tell me that day.
I'll be honest. I don't really remember that day, leading up to the game. But I do remember like a few days before, they have a little rec room for the players, just to, talk to each other, play ping pong, all different types of games. And the team that we played, their starting pitcher and their coach were in there. They were playing ping pong, and they were asking like, who's pitching? And I was like, I have no clue. But he was like, if you're pitching, like, I'm definitely going to hit a home run off of you. And I was just like, looked at him and was like, okay, like, what do you want me to say? Like, we'll just see once we get out there. Right. And then I remember our coach, or not even the coach, the players were like, oh yeah, Mo, like, you're pitching. And I was like, I just pitched a few days ago. Like, what? And then they were like, well, it's the first game. Like, you got it. And I was like, all right, it doesn't matter to me. So like in the dugout, right before we all started going out and stretching and warming up, I just told my teammates, I'm like, look, we're out here to have fun. We got here. That's what we wanted to do. I'm like, I'm just going to throw strikes and I'm going to trust you guys. And they're like, all right, we have your back. And then I went out there, and the first inning I saw their top 3 hitters, and I was like, all right, I think I can do this as long as, I stay consistent, make sure my curveball's working, making sure, I'm pounding the zone with strikes, then I'll be cool. And after that, everything was just a blur. I don't remember anything from the first through the 5th inning. I just remember, the first 3 batters and then the last 3 batters. And I just was, zoned out from there. And it's kind of crazy. Like, you would think I would remember that, but I really don't.
Right. Does it feel like such a long time ago? Like, did you feel like, wow, I was so young and I was such a little kid?
Kind of like looking like whenever like my birthday was in June, and then I'm like, wow, like I'm actually 19 now. Like, that's crazy. Like, talking about my teammates all the time, like next year we'll be 20. Like, what is that?
Right.
So yeah, it does feel like it was a long time ago when you look at the years, but like if I think about it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't that long ago, and I'm like, whoa, time out, that was 6 years ago. Like, what?
Right.
So it feels like it is, but it doesn't at the same time, because like I remember a lot of the memories that I made so clearly, and I can, sometimes I'll be like, oh, remember this? And then we'll go back and forth, just, spitting out details to each other. And it's like, wow, like that really happened that long ago.
You're right. Now, when you were going through it, did you realize how historic it was, or did it take for it to end and kind of all the hoopla?
I had no clue. Like, no one told me any type of stats, nothing. Like, I didn't hear any of that. All I heard was our coaches were just like, listen, like, y'all are a big hit out here. Like, there's going to be a lot of people. Like, make sure you stay together as a group. And we were like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying. And then next thing you know, we're walked to the batting cage. We have like police officers like escorting us to the field. And we're like, oh, this is like the real deal. Like, the first day, I think a teammate of mine like came up, and I was in the rec room with like two of my best friends at the time. And, I'm still really close to all of them on the team, but we were just sitting there playing ping pong. It's hard to get a table in there when there's, 16 teams there and everyone plays at different times. So we're playing ping pong, and 2 teammates come up. They're like, Mo, like, your cousin from North Philly said to come down. They want to see you. And I'm like, I have no cousins in North Philly. Like, what? Like, what is going on? And then my other 2 teammates are like, why don't we just go down and just go look around, see what's going on down there, go watch some games. And I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. Yeah. Go down, and we get mobbed. Like, we get stuck in a corner, and we're just taking pictures, signing autographs. And I'm like, this is like too much. Like, I can't do this right now. And then we have a security guard above us who's yelling at us, telling us to move. And we're like, sir, we can't move. Like, you need to help us or something. Like, everyone's just in front of us. We can't go anywhere. And I was just like, you know what? This is the last one. I signed the autograph, and I just walked off. And my coach, like, saw me and he's like, "Why are you walking around by yourself? You should not be walking around by yourself." And I was like, I wasn't until we got mobbed and I had to, get away. Like, I'm not gonna just stand there because I'll be there all night. And then after that, it was just everyone was just like, "All right, Mo, you can't walk around by yourself. You got to have an adult with you." And then it got to a point, like after that game, it got to a point where I had to be driven around in a golf cart because everywhere I walked, like it was just so many people there.
Wow, that's pretty. That's
crazy.
When you look back at it, that's just a cool experience.
It's pretty. Especially like being an athlete, like you dream of having tons of fans and people watch you at games, and then all that happens like at such a young age. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Had you thought about that before? Like, had you envisioned yourself on the mound pitching a no-hitter and, everybody knowing who you were?
No. I mean, when I'm pitching, I don't really think about like, oh, I'm going to go for a shutout this game or I'm going to go for a one-hitter, no-hitter. I just, just go out there and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to throw strikes. I know when I was about 10 or 11, I think that was when I first threw my shutout. Like my very first shutout, but I didn't really know what a shutout was. I just was like, oh, they didn't score and we won. Cool. We got the W, on to the next one. I didn't really know about all of that, but like as you get older and as the game goes on, you try to, your teammates understand you, like your teammates know the situation, but then you're in a zone. So they try not to take you out of your zone because then you'll start thinking like, all right, I need to get all these people out. And that's when you start to struggle. But I didn't think about any of that. I didn't even know like that no girl has done that before. So I was just like, oh, all right, that's pretty cool. And I just went out there and did what I had to do.
You're right. That's what's up. That's what's up on that. Now, you were the first girl to play in the Little League World Series, right? Or was it the first?
The first African-American girl, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Or to get a win. It's something like that. I don't really know the exact wording.
You don't read your press clippings, huh?
No. No. I'll be honest. I have a book that's out and I didn't even read the book because I was like, why do I need to read the book if I experienced all of this already? So I was like, nah. But I mean, one day I'll read it, just to look back at everything. But nah, not right now.
Right. That makes sense. Now, how did your life change after that Little League? After the World Series?
It changed a lot. I missed like the very first day of 8th grade. I went on different talk shows. My mom, I would always, I would always go to this one pizza place that's right down the street from the field that I play at. And my mom's like, don't walk down there by yourself. I miss one of my best friends in my school. I missed her birthday party one weekend. So I missed a lot that, young, like a 13-year-old would do. But at the same time, it was all cool. I've done some fantastic things. I've went to some cool places. So I got to, see a lot of the country just from what happened. But I mean, I feel like I still kind of had, that childhood.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad for me.
Right. Now you got a chance to meet, I'm pretty sure you've had a chance to meet a lot of famous people. Who are some of the coolest people or some people that you got a chance to meet?
I got to meet the Obamas. I got to meet.
How was that?
Drake. That was cool. I was there for about 2 days. It was during the National Christmas tree lighting.
Okay.
It was December of 8th grade. And I just remember like my mom was telling me about it and I was like, what? Like they want me to come? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, we go up Friday. We have to catch a train up. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. That was something that I'll never forget. They're both really tall. Like I didn't expect them to be that tall, but they're both pretty tall.
Right.
But that was a cool experience. I got to meet Patti LaBelle there.
Nice.
Neo. Then I got to meet Meek Mill, even though he's a Philly guy and he kind of grew up right down the street from where I played. So I got to meet Meek Mill. Okay. A lot of the Sixers, a lot of the Phillies, a few Eagles.
Okay.
I had to meet, the women's national team in 2015. I had to meet so many people, but those are like some of my, top favorites just because, being an athlete, I like the athletes. And then being from Philly, Meek Mill, Drake's my favorite artist. So, yeah, I got to meet some pretty cool people.
Right. I've been talking to people about, I'm a Tupac fan, so I'm just Tupac'd out. And it's taken a long time for me to put somebody above him. And I have a feeling that Drake is number one on my list right now. How do you feel about that? Do you think Drake's the best rapper ever?
I don't know about ever, So my stepdad and I, we always listen to music, all different types of music when we're in the car. And, the past couple years, we've listened to a lot of Eminem and Jay-Z. And, Drake has hits, but, like, I don't know if he's, number one artist of all time. Like, he's up there, but I don't know if we can put him as the greatest. But, he's just phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if anyone can top him right now. He just every song that he releases just somehow is a top hit. Like no matter people, like, it could be a song about ducks and it will still be on the Billboard like top 100, and it's just crazy.
Right. And when you say that, I think you may be right. I think he probably makes the best music as a rapper. He may not be the best rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that. Now, is there anybody you still want to meet? Like anybody on your list? Like, wow, I want to meet them one day.
Yeah, I would love to meet Beyonce.
B's probably
because
cool.
She just I just think she's just a perfect human being. Like I feel like she does no wrong. Right. But that's not true. But like that's just how I feel. Like she's just the best of the best. That's probably like my number one choice, and probably Kristen Pressly's like my favorite soccer player. She's up there too. But Beyonce's like my number one by far.
Yeah, Beyonce seems like a good person. You never hear anything bad about her.
No.
So you talked about it just a second ago, and in 2015 you released a memoir. How did that come about?
I really don't know how like the talks came into play. I just knew like I want to say somebody asked me if I wanted to write a book, and I was like, yeah. Just because growing up, I like to read a lot of books about athletes and like their journey, and I just figured it'd be pretty cool if I did the same thing. I mean, even though a lot of those athletes write it later on in their life and they experience more, and I didn't experience as much, but I still think it's probably one of the coolest things that I've done, just so like people can read how my life was growing up and, kind of get to know me a little bit better than, just a few interviews that they see. But that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it.
Right. Now, how did you write it? Did you say it and then somebody wrote it, or did you literally write it down? So
there was a writer who would come to my school, and we would sit down for maybe an hour. I don't really know how long. I don't remember. But we just sit there, and she would have like a voice recorder, and she would have her notes of all the questions, and she would just ask me questions. And just I'm so glad that I have such a great memory, because she would ask me questions from when I was 7, and I would just start talking to her. We'd have a conversation, and that's kind of how she did it, and that's kind of how she wrote it. And I didn't really do too much. She did a lot of it, so I always thank her whenever I see her, because she did such a phenomenal job.
Right. Awesome. What type of feedback have you gotten on that?
A lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people, tell me that their kids read it, because it's it's not too hard of a book. It's for kids. So a lot of people enjoyed it. I don't know. I hope no one didn't like it. I just think it's my life. If you didn't like it, I don't know. Like I don't know how you like. That's kind of weird. But no, I really hope people enjoyed it, and that's what I've been getting from people.
Right. Awesome. Now, you also designed a line of sneakers. Tell me about that. Like, are you into designing? Tell me about that.
I'm not really that much into designing. I mean, I don't really get dressed as much. Like, I'm pretty lazy. I wear sweatpants.
Right.
Much like, yeah. But that was that was a different experience as well, from going to practices and having like someone just come and just show me different types of shoes and just have me, choose a shoe and like, oh, which one do you like? Which design do you like? I'm like, this one, this one. But when I first heard it, I thought it was going to be like, the first thing I thought was Nike ID. So I thought I was making a Nike shoe, but it wasn't like that. So I'm like, all right, this is different. Like I have to go from scratch and build my way up. But it was just like a small little project to help girls in other like smaller countries who couldn't afford to go to like school and stuff. So I did it for a great cause, and it turned out pretty well. I'm not sure how it's doing now, and I haven't really talked to the people that I talked to make the shoe. But at the time, it was doing pretty well.
Right. Okay, that's awesome. Now, when did you first become aware of HBCUs?
Like maybe 10th grade. I knew like Howard just because I feel like everyone knows Howard because so many people just shout out Howard all the time. But my friend who's 2 grades above me, I basically called her my sister. Like, we were always together. She always made sure I was doing all right in school, and she's at Hampton as well. So that's when I heard of Hampton. And then all the girls 1 grade above me, most of them went to an HBCU as well. And that's kind of how I got started, because a lot of them would come back like, you should really go to an HBCU. Like, you'll love it. I'm like, I trust you guys, so I'm going to look into it. I looked into them, and I just like, all right, I think that's the way to go. My baseball coach, he preaches, knowing your history and your background. So he sat us down when we were like 10, 11 and had us watch like The Roots. And then when we were 14, he had us watch The Roots again, and then watch Selma and all the, like Glory, a bunch of movies that were just about African Americans, and, to learn our history. And then that's like when I was like, all right, yeah, like, I think the HBCU is the way to go, just because I love learning about civil rights and hearing stories about that. So I just figure, I think that's the way to go for me.
All right. That makes sense. Now, why Hampton? And my sister went to Hampton. So when I was in the 5th grade, fourth grade, then I was about to go to 5th grade, she went to Hampton. So in the 5th grade, you're still kind of young. I really didn't know. Then we would go down there during siblings weekend from 5th to 8th grade. And then by the time I was in the 8th grade, I really knew. I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm, I want to go to a HBCU. So I ended up going to FAMU, but Hampton was like my first introduction to HBCU. So Hampton, holds a special place in my heart. So why did you decide to go to Hampton?
So I decided to do softball, and summer going into senior year, and that's a whole story in itself, how I transitioned to softball. But I decided that I wanted to do softball, and I told my coach, and then told my parents, and me and my coach sat down and we looked at a bunch of different schools in each conference, and we decided, let's just go for it, because at that time a lot of these schools already have their 2019 commits. So we were just like, all right, let's just see how this is going to go. We sent out a bunch of emails to coaches. We got a few emails back. A lot of them were saying, thanks for the email and for the interest, but we already have our, 2019 signed.
Right.
But then Hampton and Bethune-Cookman got back to me, and they were just like, oh, we'd love to have you come to a camp and everything. And I went to homecoming. And that was just amazing for me. I was like, I love it. And then I came back down I came for camp, and then I came down for homecoming. And then this Sunday, I got to go to the Scripps building, and we got to, tour the Scripps building, talk to the dean. And I was like, I think this might be set in stone. I kind of waited. I didn't talk to Coach Angie. I didn't really talk to anybody else. Like, I just kept it to myself, and, just kind of going through like, all right, this is a plus, this is a plus. And I was like, So they have a great journalism program. That's a plus for me. I'm like, it's only 5.5 hours away, 5 hours away. That's another plus. And I knew a bunch of people in the area who were very good family friends. So if I ever needed anything, I could just call them. And I was like, that's a big plus. And I was like, I think that's the way to go. And that's how I got started at Hampton.
You're right. That makes sense. Now tell me that, let's go back to the story that when you switched from, was it from basketball to softball, going from your junior to your senior? So tell me about that story.
So growing up, basketball was just my first love. Like, I love basketball. That was the very first sport that I played. And my dream was to become a WNBA player. And then, I played AAU basketball from 9th grade to 11th grade. And in July of 11th grade, I sprained my ankle really bad. So I was in a boot for about 2 months. And then I also had to do some rehabbing for another month. So I was out for about 3 months of all types of sports. So once that happened, it gave me time to think. I went to a baseball camp with my teammates and was just sitting there watching them. And just sitting there watching them, I was like, I think I want to do softball. Like, I weighed my decision. I'm like, what am I having more fun with? And I was like, softball. But at the same time, that's what comes into, if you're winning. So at school, I didn't play basketball in the 10th grade, but I played 8th grade, 9th grade, 11th, and 12th. So I didn't play in 10th grade. And, 9th and 10th grade, they were probably my hardest years basketball-wise, just because I kind of headbutted with the coach. We couldn't agree on anything. And nothing was going in my way. And it's not like the coach was just hard and I couldn't handle it. There was other issues that were going on. So I didn't play 10th grade. And I just felt miserable kind of, going through the motions at AAU practices. Like, it started getting to a point where I didn't want to go to practice and I dreaded being at practice. I wasn't in the right headspace at practices, and my stepdad could tell, but he didn't want to say anything until, I said something first. But once I sprained my ankle, it gave me time to think, like, what do I want to really do? And I was really enjoying softball. My school team, we won the league 2 years in a row. We won state. So, winning really does factor in if you're having fun or not. And I knew, softball would really give me a challenge and really push me to become a better player. And that's where I was like, all right, I'm going to do softball. I was afraid to tell my mom. I was afraid to tell my stepdad. I was afraid to tell my coach. Like, the first person I told was my older brother, just because, I feel like he could, help me out on my wording on how to tell, my parents and coach. And then I told my friends as well. And that I think I told my stepdad, but I was like, don't tell anybody yet. Like, try to keep it low. Like, I don't even know how to tell people. And I was like, can you tell them? And then he told my mom, and then he told my coach, and my coach was like, you don't have to be afraid to tell me that. Like, it's your decision. Like, it's what you want to do. It's your 4 years. Like, it's what, like, you want to have fun. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Right. But, like, I felt bad because I felt like they put in so much money and time, and they travel with me to different tournaments. Like, I felt like I was letting them down, and, like, they wasted all that money for what? But, they were fine. I feel like it was part of the learning process. But it's kind of how, I switched sports.
Right. Makes sense. That's a good story. Now, you're a second baseman now, correct?
Yes.
Why second baseman? Is it because it's not an overhand pitch thing? Because, you were...
No. So I played shortstop in high school. But I mean, going into high school, we had to put down our positions, and I was like, I don't really want to play third base because third base is way too close to the batter, and, like, I don't want to do that. And then, I just put middle infield, and my high school coach was just trying people at different positions, and she kept me at shortstop just because of my arm that I had. But, going into college, the game's a lot different than high school. So there's a lot of different responsibilities. And I felt like second base was probably, kind of easier for me, but also the girl who's at shortstop, she's played much longer, so she knows the sport a lot better. And she's way more vocal than I am, which, is really helpful because she can I talk to her. She talks to me. She, keeps everyone going, into the game. But I love second base. It's a different position for me just because I'm not used to being on that side of the field.
Right.
But it's fun. I like it.
Right. Makes sense. Now, how has COVID changed like your training and practice? At Hampton, like
A lot.
is it null or
It,
have
it's
practice
it's
there?
very difficult, especially like when I first came home and like the beginning of summer. A lot of my baseball teammates and friends that I grew up with, they were graduating this year. So I was like, all right, I'm going to your prom. Go see you guys go off the prom. Go to your graduation. We're gonna have so much fun this summer. We were gonna do like go to amusement parks, travel, and I was like, yeah, I'm so ready for it. And then this happened. I couldn't see a lot of my family members. I couldn't even go down, to even try to work out. Like I just had to try to find things around the house.
Yeah.
Had to try to just keep my mind busy. Just going out in the front yard or the backyard is just not the same. So I try to do so much. And then none of my, siblings play baseball or softball, so I couldn't throw with them.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. The only thing I could really do is just go outside and shoot at our basketball court.
Right.
Just to get some exercise in. But it's been hard. I mean, good thing, I had classes at first just so, something could keep me busy throughout the day. But, as time went on, things kind of got hard. Like, all right, I need to stay in shape for when we go back to school. How am I going to do that if everyone, like, no one can come out? But, I think here in Philly, like, it kind of, opened up a little bit more. Our coach kind of let us come down in small groups to work out, which is nice.
Okay.
But, I'm going to make a schedule pretty soon just so, I can get back into like the flow of things and get my workout schedule together and, just try to get ready for the possibility of playing next season.
Right. How do you feel about playing next season? Do you think you guys are going to play?
I hope so. I really hope so. I feel like we're off to a phenomenal start and we had so much to prove. So I really hope we do, but I don't really know what's going on with COVID at the time. So I don't know. I can't really tell if it's getting better, if it's getting worse. So that's kind of hard to to judge.
Right. That makes sense. Just in talking to you, you seem very mature. You seem very
Thank
humble.
you. Thank
And,
you.
I think humility plays a big part in athletes. And I forget when it was, where I was reading, someone made a crude remark about you on Twitter and he was suspended. And you're the one that made a plea for him to be reinstated. What can you say about grace, forgiveness, and taking the high road?
I was just always taught at a young age, to always, always be the bigger person. So when that first happened, I had no clue what was going on. I just was getting text messages from a bunch of my friends. Like one kid from Chicago was probably the very first person that like told me about it, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, are you okay? Like, are you good? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm fine. And then he showed me that, and I kind of looked at it and I just laughed, and I was like, he doesn't even know who I am. Like, he just knows of me. And then my coach was talking. I was talking about it with my coach, and he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, what can I really do? Like, not gonna talk back to him. Like, that's not gonna help the situation. And he, we sat down and we just talked, and he's like, why don't we decide to like write a letter to try to get him reinstated? I'm like, that's true, because like everyone makes mistakes. We're all humans. No one's gonna be super perfect. And I'm like, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe he didn't mean it in that way. Like, maybe he kind of meant it this way. And we were like, well, like, what can we do? And I'm like, why don't we just ask if he can, be reinstated? I feel like he's worked so hard to get to where he was. And like that little mistake that he's done, like kind of ruined his life. Like, let's see what we can do. So we came up with a letter to send to the president, talk to the baseball coach to see if he can be reinstated. And that was like as much as I could do. I was only 13, so they're probably not going to listen to a 13-year-old, but I tried. And I just always taught be the bigger person and, don't feed into that energy. So I was like, all right, I think that's the right thing to do. But that was like, I don't really know what happened to him. I try not to let any of that bother me. Try not to feed into it. I don't like being around negativity. I try to spread positive vibes and make sure everyone's laughing and having a good time, whoever's around me.
Right. That's awesome of you. How do you stay focused? You've had the spotlight on you since you were young. You probably have a lot of people reaching out to you on a consistent basis, but with us talking, you're talking about your day ones. You're talking about having fun, keeping people smiling. How do you stay focused and kind of keep the noise away?
Honestly, I don't know. I know from being so young and playing baseball and being a pitcher and being a girl at that, like I had to figure out how to, zone people out during games. Which I don't know how it came about, but I just remember like whenever I'm pitching, like I could not hear anything besides my teammates and my coaches. And I didn't realize that happened until Little League happened, until the first game when my mom's like, "Did you hear everybody screaming?" I'm like, "No." Like, only thing I heard was like everything that was going on the field. And she's like, "Well, there are a lot of people screaming." And then like the last inning, the umpire called time because it was just so loud, and it was like he's like, "All right, we gotta call time for a little bit, let everyone settle down."
Wow.
And that's when I realized like, wow, like I can block things out. So I try to like block so much out that like I don't want it, like that won't help me become a better person or a better player. But I've always had the same friends around me, same family members. I just kind of stay in my tight little circle.
Right.
I don't go out as much. I don't really like going out as much. I think really just like being a homebody just kind of helped me stay focused, not feeding into, seeing people from school, what they do, if they go party and stuff, kind of just stay by myself. Lately I've been staying off of social media, just because I feel like it's just not the greatest place to be. Cause so many people have so much time that they're just always on social media and there's just so much going on. So I try to stay away from that. And if I do go on social media, it's just like to check like what's going on around the world. I would always check for like the COVID facts. So I just, really try to stay away from that. And, that's kind of how I stay focused, just kind of blocking out negativity and stuff that's not important to my life.
Right. Makes sense. What's your favorite social media? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter? Because Twitter seems pure. Instagram is like showing off. Facebook is, people.
I would say probably Twitter. I don't like taking pictures. I don't know. I just don't like taking pictures. So, that's kind of what all Instagram is about. It's just taking pictures and people flexing what they have. And that's just not my cup of tea. So like I go on Twitter. It's a bunch of just reading things and everyone's so real on Twitter. And it's just such a funny app, like so many memes and people just tweet and stuff. So I go on Twitter just because, I get a good laugh. You can see videos up there. And I feel like everything on Twitter's always up to date with what's going on. So I always just check Twitter no matter what.
Right. That makes sense. So when you wake up in the morning, what's the first app you check? Is it your email?
No, I actually check my email once I open my laptop just because it's easier to read for me on my laptop. Right. But usually when I first wake up, I'll see if I have any missed calls or any text messages and see who they're from and then try to get back to them. And then it varies. It's either if I have a Snapchat, I'll go on Snapchat just because I don't use Snapchat that much. So I feel like if someone's Snapchatting me, it's probably for an important reason if they don't have my number. So I usually check that.
Right.
But it varies between Instagram and Twitter. So if I see like a text message of like, oh, did you hear this? I'll go right on Twitter to check if it's news. But most of the time it's probably Instagram.
Okay. Makes sense. What is your workout routine like?
It's been so long. I stretch, and then I kind of go look over like what I have to do. And if I don't know, like if I don't know how to do it, I'll look it up. But then I'll go. If I'm doing weights, I'll go lift weights. If I'm not lifting, then I'll go hit off the tee, or if people are there and they're doing ground balls or fielding, I'll go do fielding with them, and then I'll hit later. And then most of the time I'm just sitting and talking, and then I get up and leave. So it's not too crazy. I try to get in and get out, do what I have to do, and then make sure I'm keep it short and compact, and then I get on my way and go home.
All right. Sounds great. What does a successful career look like to you?
I would say, being happy, enjoying what I'm doing,
Yes.
making sure that I love what I do. That's kind of, the key things into being like having success. And I love having fun. Like I love to laugh all the time. So, laughing, having fun, and make sure that I'm happy are going like what I think are being helps you be successful.
I think happiness is everything. I don't
Yeah.
think enough people realize that the game is happiness. It's not money. It's not,
Mhm.
certain status. It's about happiness. You can have people making $44,000 a year, playing in 3 softball teams, and they're just happy. And then I know millionaires that are really really unhappy. So I'm glad
Mhm.
you said that.
Like growing up, my brother, cousins, mom, they would always tell me like money doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah,
So once, I kept hearing that, and I'm like, I would always try to make sure that people around me were happy before I made sure like I was happy.
right.
So once I kind of realized that, I think I realized that like 11, or actually realized that going into senior year. So that was involved with me switching over to softball. That's when I like sat down and was like, all right, what am I happy with, and not what I'm making other people happy with.
Right.
So like that's kind of where that came from. Like just making sure that I'm happy with doing what I do, and make sure that I'm happy before I make others happy. Because if you're not happy and you're trying to make others happy, like it's not good for you at all.
Not gonna work. What's next for you, Monet?
Next for me, just trying to finish in school really.
Right.
Um, um, make sure that I stay on track and do what I got to do. Hopefully go back to school this fall or this spring. But really just finishing school and finding what I want to do for the rest of my life. Really.
Right. That's awesome. Monet, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. This was really fun, and you know, I, I'm a visual person, so I always think of people that I want to talk to. And even though you've talked a lot, I didn't want to look at any interviews, so I didn't want to know what you've talked about. And I
Mm-hmm.
really dug deep into what I wanted to talk to you about. But I know when it's time for you to when you eventually become a HBCU grad, things are going to be different. And I would love to talk to you again, when that happens. So,
For
thank you
sure,
for
for
taking the
sure.
time. If you ever need anything, we'll always be here for you, and you can always reach out.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I like
Now,
to, keeping it conversational. That was
that-
like the main thing that I saw in that email was like making sure we keep it conversational. And I was like, yeah, that's the right way to go. So I really enjoyed this. This is nice and easy, nice and simple. You got your point across. I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Right. Awesome. Well, Monet, good luck this semester. Hopefully, things open back up. You'll be back on campus, and we're going to keep an eye on you, and hopefully you take it to the next level, whatever that next level is.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one, Monet.